In the 1800s, women were not allowed to participate in athletic activities due to gender stereotypes and roles. Philip Wrigley, Branch Rickey, and Paul Harper decided to make the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. The main reason they created the league was because of low viewership in the minor leagues of baseball and increased ticket sales while the MLB stars were away fighting in World War II. After the league ended, people started to realize that women could play sports professionally. The league changed history by creating the first women's professional sports league, and the reason that the WNBA, National Women's Soccer League, the PHF, and many other women's sports leagues were created. The Hurricane Games in Olympia was the first recorded women's athletics competition. The Spartan charioteer Ionis won the two-horse chariot race and had a bronze statue in Sparta made in her honor. In the pre-Columbian era, many women from indigenous tribes were shown to be competing in sports like running, swimming, stick and ball games, and wrestling. In the year 1567, Queen Mary of Scotland became the first woman to ever play golf. As the 1800s rolled around, more women decided to become involved in physical activity. The first women's sports clubs popped up. Women were viewed as being able to play non-contact sports. Contact sports were viewed poorly for women. Tennis, croquet, bowling, and archery became very popular in women's athletics. Colleges began hosting dates where women could compete in sports and activities against other students and teams from their school. By the 1920s, there were official women's college sports teams. The 1900s Olympic Games was the first one to allow women's athletics. In 1907, the first women's doubles tennis tournament happened, with two French women winning, Addison Masson and Yvonne de Poufel. The first women's owner of a major American sports franchise was Helene Britton in 1911 when she inherited the St. Louis Cardinals from her father. In 1916, the Amateur Athletic Union held its first women's athletic event in swimming. In the 1930s, baseball was booming. It was the most popular pastime in the United States. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt used baseball as a way to get people away from the issues with the Great Depression. In total, over 82 million people attended a Major League Baseball game in 1930 to 1939, with an average of over 8 million people attending per year. Baseball is riding high, heading into the 40s. Little did people know what was to come. On December 7, 1941, the United States entered World War II. When the U.S. entered the war, a lot of major and minor league players signed up to fight for the land they called home. Some didn't even have a choice. On September 16, 1940, the United States introduced the Selective Training and Service Act of 1940, which was a draft for men aged 21 to 45. It was the first peacetime conscription in history. Over 500 major leaguers and 2,000 minor leaguers were drafted in the World War II. Two Major League Baseball players died in the war, Elmer Gedeon and Harry O'Neill. Public morale dropped, and baseball seemed like a fun way to forget about things. Major League attendance rates had held steady during the early 1940s, even though a lot of major baseball stars like Yogi Berra and Ted Williams were off in the war. Meanwhile, softball was starting to gain some popularity, known as women's baseball until 1926. One of the first teams was the Owen Sound Ladies Baseball League. It was formed by a teacher named Mary Miller in Ontario. Softball continued to rise in popularity into the 30s and 40s. In the year 1943, minor league baseball is struggling. To help out a stadium sell tickets and keep baseball in the public eye, Philip Wrigley, Branch Rickey, and Paul Harper created the All-American Girls Softball League in 1943. The first tryouts were held in Chicago and had almost 300 women from the U.S. and Canada. It originally started as a softball league, but the rules were modified and eventually became a full-blown baseball league. There were four original teams: the Rockford Peaches, the South Bend Blue Sox, the Racing Bells, and the Kenosha Comets, who played an 108-game schedule. The league began to grow in popularity in the Midwest cities it started in. It expanded to over 4 states, including Minnesota, with the Minneapolis Millerettes. Even being a new progressive league, there was still discrimination. Femininity is the keynote of our league. No pants-wearing, tough-talking female softballer will play on any of our 4 teams, said Max Carey, who was a Hall of Fame baseball player and league president. The league was also originally segregated. When the war ended and the men came home, many thought the league would fall. They were completely wrong. The league hit its peak in 1948 with 10 teams attracting over 910,000 paid fans. The league downfall would ultimately come from advertising. Their main advertising manager from 1943 to 1950, Arthur E. Marioff, ran an idea of national advertising through magazines. This attracted new fans and had the league considered family entertainment or recreation for war workers. In 1951, the league switched to decentralized league administration. This meant that every team had to do its promotion with no help from the league. However, this meant that the managers of ads for their team were less experienced. The league began hosting local-based promotions instead of the former national-based promotions, which didn't generate national interest. The league ended up folding in 1954 after 11 years. Though the professional league did end up stopping in 1954, women never stopped playing baseball. After the league ended, lots of women from the league kept playing and/or switched to softball. It wasn't just former league players playing, but also other women playing. They also inspired a lot of young girls to play baseball. In 1972, a 12-year-old girl tried out for a little league team and was accepted but kicked out soon after due to her gender. After that, she, with the National Organization for Women on her side, sued them for gender discrimination. The court ruled in favor about 2 years later, which made it so women could play in the Little League World Series. 21 girls have gone on to play in the Little League World Series. In 1992, the film, A League of Their Own, hit the box office. Though the movie was used with fictional characters, it covered the founding and play of the league. It starred Gina Davis, Lori Petty, Rosie O'Donnell, Madonna, and Tom Hanks, and it was produced by Columbia Pictures. In 2022, there's a spin-off TV show released with the same name as the old show, but with different characters. The league is the first professional all-women sports league in history. It led to many other different leagues like the WNBA, which was formed in 1996 and is now the best basketball league in the world for women to play in, as well as the National Women's Soccer League, which was established in 2012 and holds some of the best talent in the world, like Megan Rapinoe and Crystal Dunn. Softball has also grown in popularity. There is now the Little League Softball World Series and the College Softball World Series, both of which are a big deal and are on major networks like ESPN. Baseball has also survived and grown with many different fans and stars like Bryce Harper and Mookie Betts. The former league members still host reunions today. Sometimes league members will be invited to throw up first pitches at Major League Baseball games. There is still an active league website that shows what the members are currently doing and has some old interviews.